All right, so this segment is called textual, something about text, and we are going to deal with text. But as with along the line, I'm kind of tweaking things as I see them. And if you're doing a theme where you've got the graphical comps already kind of there and handy, probably what you're doing is you're looking at the browser and seeing what it looks like there, and you're looking at your graphical comps and playing that game that you played as a kid, which is kind of what's missing or what's different between these two pictures, and then slowly tweaking them. In this case, it's a little weird because most of the actual design is in my head, and so I'm looking at it and saying, what do I want to change? What don't I like? And it really is that matter of, you might rough it out, and then you just little by little make little changes. It's not one where you kind of sit down, write it all out, and have it be done. At least not in my practice. And some maybe they do, but I haven't seen that happen. A lot of people do it the way I do it, which is you change something, you make sure that it's working, you change it a little bit more, you make sure it's working, and you continue to kind of evolve it until you're happy with what it looks like. So, all right, so let's do that. Oh, and I should note that this is a little bit more like the Home and Garden channel and less like the Food channel. In the Food channel, yes, you actually watch them making it, and it's almost real time. They probably don't make you watch them chop the broccoli or whatever. They might have a little bit of prep before the show starts. But for Home and Garden or something like that, where they're rebuilding the interior of a house or gutting a house in some way, you're not. A half-hour show is not going to show you all the work that actually goes into it. So I am doing a little bit behind the scenes here. You will see that between lessons, little things have changed. So, for example, here, I've changed what's showing up on the right-hand side here. I've pulled the RSS feed for Twitter. I've also hidden the meta part here where it says who the author is, because this is a single-authored blog. I think I have had guest bloggers, but for now I'm just going to leave off the author. I might go back in and switch that around, but for now I've just used a display none. So I've gone in and done little things, and I'll continue to do that. And this time especially, just to kind of get through, I have to do a little bit of side work, I guess. But let's go ahead and start with the changes that we're going to do in terms of text. I am going to use CSS3 and a font face include. I might not do that on a commercial site right now, but since I'm having fun with it, I figured I'd go ahead and make that change here. I'm making use of something called the Fell types, which is nice because it's licensed for use as a font face and as a font face include in CSS3, and not a lot of, as we've discussed before, not a lot are. It also makes sense for my kind of bookish look that I'm not really, this modern look isn't really what I'm going for. I'm going for that kind of old type feeling, and so this is a good black letter font that I can use for that in some sense. I went ahead and downloaded those fonts. I also translated the TTFs to EOTs. EOT is a form, if you look through some of the things about cross-browser compatibility and the font embedding. EOT works for Internet Explorer. TrueType fonts are one of the ones that should work fine for everybody else, but I needed to make the translation to EOT in order to have it work with Microsoft browsers. It wasn't a big deal. I could have just let it fail down to Georgia or sans serif, or rather serif, but I figured I might as well do that for IE as well. So I went and I translated the TrueType fonts to EOT fonts. Not quite sure if that's allowed by the license, but I think I'm holding to the spirit of the license, which is attributing the work of the people who created the Fell font. So I'm definitely going to properly attribute who created the font, and I think they're okay with me doing this very small thing, which is changing the format slightly so that it'll work with IE. So I've uploaded those to the theme directory for my blog, right next to the style.css. Now we need to go ahead and include them, and again I'm going to kind of, rather than make you watch me type this, I'm just going to copy and paste real quick. So I'm doing it, I'll do it right after I do all the other imports, and I'll do my includes here, and I'll just do a quick comment that what it is I'm doing here. CSS3 font embeds, and then I'll paste that all in there. Just a quick note as to what this is. So when you're dealing with Internet Explorer for CSS3, you need to load in the IE stuff first. So those are the EOT files. I do this 3 times because I'm using 3 different, they're actually part of the same font family. I'm not doing it the way you're supposed to do it. I'm doing it slightly differently, but that's okay. I'm loading in an italic font, and there's 2 versions of that. I'm loading in the Pica font. There's 2 versions of that. And then I'm loading in a story caps, that is capital letters bigger and smaller for use in title text. So those are those loaded in. And then once I load them in, I need to apply them to something. I'm just going to apply them to the body. Actually, I'll apply them to body and to input and to text area. That way, because this stuff right here is actually not body text, it's input text. Same here, this is input text, and I want all the text to kind of match, so I'm going to do it for inputs and for text area as well. And we'll just say font, and I'm going to do, this is at the very top level, so rather than doing M's or percentages, I'm going to actually list it out as 19 pixels high. Yes, that's kind of random, but I'll go with that. And then I'm going to use Fel DW Pika as my main font. I'll fail back to Georgia, and then I'll fail back to serif. And we really need to take out the spaces there. Alright. Now I probably ought to do, well, I can actually really quick do H1, H2, H3, H4, and I'll go ahead and do the Fel DW story for those. These are the story caps. Alright, so I still need to deal with the italices and use those for emphasis, but for now let's see how this works. I've updated, I'll go over here, I will refresh. Alright, there's something odd here. I guess it's being controlled somewhere else, but and I'll have to go back and kind of revisit that. But for the main text, this looks pretty good. There's something important here, which is I've lost my bold. I've lost this is actually strong, but it didn't come through because the font doesn't have a built-in strong weight, so I'll have to deal with that. I'm probably okay with that, actually, just not having strong. But I like this. This works well for what I'm doing. It doesn't work well with the smaller text. I might need to replace that with something else when it gets smaller, if I'm going to keep it that size. I'm certainly not going to keep that all underlined, so I'll have to think about that. But generally speaking, this works well for the way this is going to end up being. This didn't work with the story caps, and let's go ahead and see why that is. So this is it with the, you can see I'm in Firefox here, so I can use Firebug, and I can go up and see what it is that's causing this, which is oh, that's actually not an H1. Okay, that's probably part of the reason. This is an H2. So why isn't the H2 doing this? And let's take a look at we can go through here and figure out what it is that's assigning it that the Arial sans serif, and it's entry title. So we can actually go back to ours real quick and make sure that for entry title we're using those story caps. So let's go ahead and try that. No guarantees that it'll work. I might have to do some detective work, but let's give it a try. I hope I remember that it's entry title. Let's try that. And I'll update the file. And I'll refresh it over here. There we go. So you can see that this is big letters, little letters, and so that's leading it into there. Now how about my total title up here? This is the back and forth. I really need to investigate some of these tools for Chrome, but for now let's go ahead and take a look up here. If we refresh it here, we'll see that it's fixing that here too, hopefully. There we go, abstract of a non-existent paper. Okay, what about this one up here? What's that? Why isn't that coming through? This is a span. This is ID blog title. So let's make sure that that's what it is that's getting it set up. Blog title it is, so let's go ahead and reset that here. We're going to use that for both the entry title and for the blog title. Alright, so I'll update the file, and you'll see that it's come up the way I want it to look. And I'll probably play with that a little bit in terms of that's all lowercase with story caps, and I might mess with it, and I'm not even sure I'll use that type in the header, but I'm pretty happy with the way that's looking.